What up, gang? Welcome back to the Kingdom Closers series, a sales training series I'm doing here on YouTube, where I'm breaking down how to effectively communicate the Kingdom way. And before we do that, please hit that like button and hit the subscribe button. Today, we're breaking down the 8-step sales process. Okay, one of my favorite quotes from one of my favorite sales books ever that changed my life. The sales book is called "You Can't Teach a Kid to Ride a Bike at a Seminar." I need you to write that down and go read that and then come back to me with all the dope information that you got. But one of my favorite quotes from that book is, if you do not have a process of your own, you're going to fall victim to the prospect's process. Yes, the prospect has a process. We all do. When you go walk into the shoe store and somebody asks you, "Hey, how can I help you?" I'll take a second for you to think about what you would most likely say. No, just looking. Right? That's a process. We have an internalized process that we all use. So as salespeople, we need to have our own process so that we can accomplish the things that we need to accomplish. Now, here is the definition of a process. Okay. It is a series of actions or steps taken in order to achieve a particular end. So let's break that down. Let's break it down for the wholesaling industry. A series of actions or steps. Okay. That means like there's certain things that you have to fulfill right before this next thing is going to happen. So we call this in the 8-step sales process, we call all these steps, we call them buckets, and you're going to learn about that later on. But those things need to be fulfilled in order to achieve a particular end. In our case, if we're wholesaling real estate, that particular end is getting somebody to sign a contract. If you are selling shoes, it's getting them to, take out the credit card and pay for the shoes. Okay. So it's important that we have our own process so we don't get caught up. I want you to think about a car lot. Let's just say you were getting ready to buy a new car and you go on a car lot. That car lot is going to have their own process. They're going to bring you in. They're going to ask you some questions. They're going to get some information. They're going to show you the cars. They're going to take that car. Then they're going to take you on a test drive. You're going to come back. You're going to say that you want the car, and then they have their own process of their own still. They're getting you to sign this over here in this department, then they're bringing you over to that department, and they're bringing you over to that department on purpose. And they're sticking to their process. They're non-negotiable. They're not allowing you to take the car on the test drive, hold it for the next 3 days, and then come back, right? They're not giving you the paperwork to sign and saying, "Hey, why don't you take this to your house, talk about it with your wife, and come back 5 days later." No, they're like, "Dude, this is what we do. We're signing it right here and here. This is our process." So that's why we need a process. One of the major things a process is going to do for you is it's going to bring clarity on every single lead that you were working on. Okay, so when I first launched Blueprint, we had the 8-step sales process in there. And one of the major things that everybody who was learning the 8-step sales process was saying was, "Man, I know exactly where every single one of my leads are at. There's no confusion. There's all clarity. I know how to do the follow-up. I know why we need to follow up with them. I know when they're going to close. I know why they are not signing the contract. I know how they are going to close." That is what a process does for you. Really quick before you watch the rest of the video, if you haven't heard already, I'm running a monthly free wholesaling challenge. And this is what it looks like. Week 1, it's a sales training. Week 2 is also a sales training. Week 3, I hop on the phone with sellers. And I call them in real time. Week 4, I actually give you guys motivated seller leads to call on the Zoom. Now, my team has generated thousands of leads, and I provide those leads for you guys to call on the Zoom. And I'm in the side chat giving you guys feedback on what to say next and all that stuff to push it to the next level. So if you want to get in these Zooms, it's absolutely free. Go to wholesalewithmike.com or just go to the link in the description below. Let's get back into the video. So before we dive into what the 8-step sales process is exactly, I want to tell you guys how the 8-step sales process came to life. Now, you guys have probably heard the story before if you've been listening to me for a while. In the beginning of my wholesaling journey, I stunk. I was getting no leads, no deals. It was just bad. So I ended up joining a mentorship. When I got into that mentorship, my guy Pace Morby just pretty much pulled the curtains back in my business and said, "Oh, bro, you got some leads going in the door. You got to learn how to sell." So I'm like, okay, cool. So I did everything I could for the next 6 months to learn how to sell. And ultimately, as I did that, I started internalizing a process that I didn't even know at the time. But I started taking a piece from this person, a piece from that person, a piece from this person, a piece from this sales book. everybody. I was taking a piece from everybody that resonated with me the most. So as I started doing this, I got my first deal within like 3 weeks. It was a snowball from there. I started doing deal after deal after deal after deal. The problem is I was the only one getting the deals. I was the only one having the conversations to get people to sign the contracts. And at the time, we started leveling up in our company and we started getting more busy. More team members came on, more leads came in the door, and we needed more help. So I was like, man, I need some help. I need somebody to come on the team to help me get these people to sign the contract because I'm out busy doing a bunch of other things. So one day I post on like the Massachusetts Facebook group, post a CSV file of a skip trace list. I'm like, hey, wholesalers, I have this list here. I'd love for you guys to go create some chaos. If you need any help with any leads that you end up generating, feel free to reach out to me and, we'll squat up on the deal. So I do that. And this guy named Felipe comments on the post and he's like, yo, this is really dope. And all of a sudden he takes that list and he starts taking action. And he hits me up probably at least every other day with some sort of problem that he had from that list. Got to the point where I was just like, dude, do you want to just come on the team? And he's like, yeah, sure. So he came on the team as a closer, and he was a guy that I first had to train. But here was the problem. I didn't know how the heck to train him. I started thinking about it. I'm like, man, I have everything in my brain. Like when I'm talking to a seller, I just kind of go do the thing. I don't really know what it is that I do. I don't really know how to train you. I don't know what to train you on. All I know is I go out and do the thing. I'm like, bro, just watch me do it and figure it out. But obviously that didn't help. So what I had to do is for 2 weeks straight, I sat in my office and I just thought about every single thing that I do on a call. And I thought back to every single deal that I did up to that point, and I reverse engineered how they got done. And I came up with these steps, okay? And they were pieces from everybody's sales training that I was taking. So I internalize this process and I bring it to Felipe, and all of a sudden he's like, whoa, this is good. Like, I'm locking up deals. I know exactly what to go ask on the phones. I know where my leads are at. It's dope. So from there, Felipe started closing deals, and that was the first time the 8-step sales process came to life. Once I realized that it really started working with Felipe, I was like, everybody else needs to know about this. So I started hosting meetups and I was teaching it at the meetups. I started bringing on more team members. I was teaching it to them. And then I launched Blueprint, and I'm like, man, the best thing that has helped us in our business has been this 8-step sales process. So we immediately started teaching the 8-step sales process in Blueprint when we first launched. So that's what I want to teach you guys today. I want to teach you guys this process. Remember, this is a process that is going to be the foundation of your sales career. And then later on, as you develop, you are going to become an effective communicator, and this process is just internalized. Let's get into the process. Okay, so as I was saying, each step is a bucket. And as we're looking at this diagram here, all these buckets need to be filled up in order for a sale to be fulfilled. And in our case, a sale means a contract being signed. Okay, so everything needs to be filled up before we get this contract signed. Now, you're probably like, Mike, there ain't no way we're going to be able to fill up all these buckets all in one call. And you're absolutely right. Actually, it usually takes about, I would say, maybe 13 of these conversations in order to fill up all these buckets, okay, on average. Sometimes you can get them in one call or 2 calls. But on average, you're taking a lot of time filling up these buckets. So you're getting here. Now, all of a sudden, you run into a roadblock and you're not able to fill up the 3rd bucket. You got to give the prospect what we call homework to help you fill up this bucket later on. And that is what your follow-up looks like. Your follow-up looks like the following up on the homework that you gave the seller. So bucket number 3 is what we call budget. Let's just say you've done everything you could possibly do to fill up the bucket. That's important here. I don't want you guys thinking that you guys can give homework to somebody without squeezing the most juice out of the call. So you have to do everything you could possibly do to fill up the bucket. But in the event, absolutely nothing can be done in order to fill up that bucket besides giving homework. Then you give homework, and that's what you follow up on. So let's just say it's a budget bucket. Let's just say you're going to fill up the budget bucket and the budget bucket, but it has to do with money. And you got to get them to go take an action step. Maybe it is to go get a total payoff of a loan or something like that. You have to go do that in order to fill up this bucket. Maybe they are never going to make any decision unless they know what is left over on the mortgage. You got to go get them to figure out what's left over on the mortgage. That could be in real time. You could be doing this on the phone. Or they could need to talk to their mortgage company themselves because they're in foreclosure or whatever the situation is. But you have to give them homework in order to fill up the bucket. Then they go do the homework, you follow up on the homework, and then the bucket ends up being filled up. So that's the deal with the buckets. Once you get all these buckets filled up, you have a signed contract. Boom. Now, I want to dig into every single bucket. The first bucket we call intro. Very simple. This is our intro. Your intro should be cut, precise, to the point, confidence, clear, and direct. That's all it should be. Hey, Jane. Hey, this is Mike. How are you? Hey, my team told me to give you a shout because you were looking to sell your property on Main Street. We're looking to purchase another property in the area. I was hoping maybe we could work together on some things. Tell me what's going on. Simple. Should be no more than like 10 to 15 seconds. Okay. I would practice an intro. By the way, make this your own. Make it something that you own personally. This isn't like taking somebody's exact intro. Go put your own, sprinkle your little own sauce on it, your little own personality onto it. Okay. Make it your own. The second thing, rapport. Okay. Rapport is not talking about the basketball teams and the football teams and you guys' favorite color. Rapport is simply chopping it up and getting the underlying circumstances for what the seller or prospect is going through. This is what I would call fact finding. You're getting all the facts. You're figuring out all the puzzle pieces to the story. Now, a couple things that you could do for this: ask a lot of open-ended questions and actively listen. I'll dig into what those are later on in another video. The third bucket is budget. Budget obviously has to do with money. But there's two main things that we need to get in the budget bucket. We need to get how much they are looking for net in their pocket. Okay, that does not mean, let's look here. There's a house, and let's just say the seller thinks this physical house is worth $400K. Okay, what they want net in their pocket is not $400K. That makes sense? The reason why we do ask them like, hey, how much are you hoping to get for your property? They might say $400K, but that's not enough. Net in their pocket is different. They're going to take this $400K right here, right? And they're simply going to give this physical thing that has no emotion attached to it or nothing. They're just going to give it a number. Maybe it's a number that they saw on Zillow or they saw their neighbor's house sell for or whatever. Has absolutely nothing to do with them moving forward on things, okay? What we want to get is what they're getting net in their pocket. So let's just say there's a $200,000 mortgage on the property and they owe $50K in back taxes or something. Okay, well, at the end of the sale, they're looking at $150 in this scenario. That's not included any other fees, any other closing fees, any other commissions or whatever. So really, they're not getting $400 for the property. They're getting $100 and something $1,000 for the property. So I want you to think about this. Let's think about if you were selling a car. Let's just say you had a car that had $5,000 left over on the car note, and the car could sell on Craigslist for $10,000. When you go to sell that car, you are not thinking about the $10,000. Okay, you're thinking about the $5,000 that you were going to get net in your pocket when you sell that car and what you are going to do with that $5,000. That's why the second part of the budget bucket is why they need that money or what they are doing with that money. So it's how much and what they are doing. Okay. Number 4, decision. Decision, I'm into 2 different questions as well. This is what is justifying them making a decision. Okay, this could be what are the top 3 things that are going to make these guys pull the trigger. You know, maybe it's stopping a foreclosure. Maybe it is getting down to a different state. Maybe it's, you know, having a tenant removed or whatever. There's top things that people need solved in a sale. What are those top things, the motivating factors? That's the first thing. What's justifying them making a decision? The second thing is who is helping them make a decision. Who are the decision makers? Do they have a partner on the deal? Do they have a spouse? Who is ultimately going to help them make the decision? Who's going to help them look over the paperwork and all that stuff? Do they have to run it by an attorney? Do they have to run it by a friend? You get this out the way so that later on it doesn't come up after you give the offer and they're like, oh, I got to go talk to my partner. Oh, I got to go talk to my spouse. So you handle it prior so it doesn't come up later. Number 5, pain. Pain is getting the seller to understand that they are in pain. It's getting them to come up with the pain on their own and recognize that they are in pain. I was just talking to a foreclosure lead the other day. Guy was talking about, hey, I want to stay into the property. I'm just going to do a bankruptcy. And I'm like, dude, you can do the bankruptcy, but let's think this out. What would life look like if you did the bankruptcy? And he starts telling me, well, I know it's going to hurt my credit. I know it's going to go on my record. I'm not going to be able to buy a car. I'm not going to be able to move into another house when I want to. And we're going over all that stuff. And I'm like, dude, the bankruptcy is going to bring you a lot of pain. And what happens if you don't do that? He's like, well, then I just completely lose the house. So now he's recognizing that he's in pain, which is very, very important because that's what's going to make him make the decision. It's very similar to, let's just say there was somebody that was addicted to drugs. They need to realize the pain that they are in. Sometimes they're so numb, they just don't understand it. They don't understand the people that they are hurting. So they need to come up with that themselves. Great quote, though. This is a tool that you can use. A great quote from my guy, Pace Morby. A man convinced against his will is of the same opinion still. So notice, I am not telling somebody that they're in pain. I'm getting them to come up with it on their own, right? Hey, so how do you think that this makes your family feel? What's going to happen if you don't do this? You see what I'm saying? You got to get them to come up with that on their own. Okay, number 6, fulfillment. Sorry for my writing. Fulfillment. This is wrapping everything that we just went over, okay? Wrapping up the whole entire thing and presenting the solution on a silver platter. Okay, I don't have time to go into like exactly how we do this, the exact wording and phrasing and questioning and all the things for every single bucket. We have that in the 8-step sales process in Blueprint. It takes me hours to go through that, so I'm not going to do that here. But fulfillment is pretty much just wrapping everything up and presenting the solution on a silver platter. The solution that solves their problem. Okay, this is not, saying, oh, we can buy your house in cash, we can do this, we could do that, we could do the other. No, this is figuring out what their circumstances are and going out and finding the best product to solve their circumstances. A lot of the cases, it's giving them a cash offer if you're wholesaling real estate. If you are selling shoes, what shoe is going to help that person? Maybe they are a runner. You're not going to give them some work boots, right? You're not going to go into the bag like, hey, I got these really good work boots, I got these good dress shoes, and I got these running shoes. Like, no, dude, you're just going to go grab the running shoes. You're going to give him the right product, right? You're going to wrap up everything that he went over. Hey, so I know you run about this many miles. You need this type of shoe. I got the perfect one for you here. That's it. That's what fulfillment is. Okay, number 7, urgency. I want you to think about it. I already know. If you're talking to sellers, I already know you have a problem with getting people to sign right then and there. I already know because I've had that problem myself. In the beginning, I would send out a contract or I would try to get somebody to get an agreement signed and they would be dragging their feet and there would just be no urgency in the deal, okay? So the main part with urgency is you want to let them know that you cannot take a maybe. A yes would be cool. A no might even be cooler. But I cannot take a maybe. So you got to show these guys that you are a professional, you are busy, and that you are doing the thing. And you can't just be sitting in the dark. That's the worst thing for you, to be sitting in the dark, not knowing whether or not we are doing this deal. And you got to let that be known. Last one, negotiate and close. So you come in and you give the offer. This is where you negotiate and you close. But you do this in a specific way. When you're about to give the offer, I like to call it a roller coaster. You know how a roller coaster goes up very slow, tick, 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 and then drops. That's how you give the offer. So you give the offer, it's almost like, you're saying, hey, well, here's the good news, Mike. I was able to go back and crunch the numbers and, I think we're going to be able to make something work here. We're going to be able to figure out, how we fix the foreclosure situation. We're going to be able to do this, that, and the other, right? And you're prepping them for what is about to come. And then boom, you drop it on them. And then you are silent. And then when they tell you no, What you're probably going to have to do is you're probably going to have to go back and fill up some of the buckets and figure out why they're telling you no. And then you go back, recrunch your numbers, and then present another solution. Finally, you close the deal. But here's the deal. It's not that easy. You need skills and tools to get through this process time and time again. So the videos to come are going to be the tools that you need in order to get through this process. I'll catch y'all in the next video. Peace.